Hey guys, it's Rebecca Tabbert with Fit Body Bootcamp Redlands and Fit Body Bootcamp Calamasa, and apparently my dog wants to be in the video. Hey, I'm shooting the video just because I just finished my own workout and I raced home to try this new turkey meatloaf recipe, and as crazy as it sounds, I've been thinking about it and really excited to get it done. And one of the reasons I like to shoot these videos is, one, I promise you I'm always going to keep it real. And I tell you guys, I am so not a cook. And I guess I'm becoming a little bit more of a cook because I want to have good, healthy foods for my family, but I don't want to eat just plain chicken and vegetables all the time. And so I have gotten more comfortable with just getting creative. And so that's what I want to encourage you to do today. And I am creating this turkey meatloaf recipe. I've been craving it for whatever reason. I just thought it would be a good, fun thing to do, something different. I couldn't find a recipe that I completely was in love with, so I found one that was pretty close, and I'm going to change it up. And again, I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I'm going to give it a shot, and I'm going to experiment. And if it's as yummy as I expect it to be, then you're watching this video, which means good. It was really good. And my encouragement to you is to do the same. Take recipes that you think you're interested in and clean them up or make them healthier, make them fit your needs, but don't be afraid to try new things. You can't fail at cooking. If it doesn't taste great, all right, so you've lost an hour or two of cooking time if it was that big of a meal. But really in the end, when you find those good recipes, you get 10 good, healthy recipes put together that make them quick, easy, that you get comfortable with, and that's like a change in lifestyle for sure, not just for you, but for your entire family. So I'm going to jump onto my Mac, and it locked me out, so give me a second. But I'm going to bring up the recipe that I found online that's pretty close. The recipe itself, for example, calls for 3/4 cup of quick oats. And at this moment, I really want to make this turkey meatloaf low carb to no carb. So I'm going to swap it out for my handy dandy newest go-to, which is almond meal. I use almond meal flour or almond flour or almond meal in a lot of recipes now, and I also use coconut flour. I'm experimenting with that for baking as well, but coconut flour tends to be more of like a cake type consistency. So we're going to go with the almond meal, and then it also calls for a 1/2 cup skim milk, and I personally don't do any dairy at this point. I'm going to ask my cameraman Dante to back up a little bit. So what I am going to swap that out for is actually almond milk. And almond milk is another great way to switch out your dairy. You do have to be careful with it, just like with anything else, as I talk to all of our clients about. You really got to become your own resource in terms of like checking labels and being super careful. Because even with the almond milk, it's kind of this new thing, but what's happened is a lot of the brands have put in extra sugar to try and make more people buy it. And it just is adding sugar and calories that you don't need. So this brand in particular is super good. It's unsweetened, it's really low in sugar, so that would be my recommendation. It's also really great to use for shakes as well. It makes them a little bit thicker without adding the dairy in. So now with that almond milk being one of the replacements, then it also calls for a medium peeled onion, as well as bell pepper. The onion, I like purple onions. I just think they're a little bit sweeter, and I also like red bell peppers. It's also a great way to kind of sweeten up your recipes. But I like a lot of vegetables. So that was all the vegetables the recipe called for, but I'm going to add in some really great fresh green zucchini as well as some garlic, because who doesn't love garlic, especially in a meatloaf, right? Now, in addition to those swaps, it calls for Worcestershire sauce. And Worcestershire sauce, I'm going to go ahead and use it because it's pretty low in sugar, and we'll see how that comes out. But I'm not too worried about it because it is really low in sugar. It's not that big of a deal. It does call for ketchup, and one of our favorites is the Trader Joe's Organic Ketchup. Again, just be careful. Make sure you read labels. Ketchup in general, condiments in general, can really add calories and sugar. This one from Trader Joe's is low in sugar, lower in calories. It's not something that I use on a regular basis for my everyday clean eating. My preference would be salsa, but obviously this recipe calls for ketchup, and that's a good choice, the best choice ever died. So the recipe calls for, where were we? It calls for 1/2 teaspoon of salt, so we are going to use 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt. It also calls for black pepper just for taste, and then it calls for tomato sauce, 8-ounce can of tomato sauce. So we actually use, again, going back to an organic tomato sauce from Trader Joe's. If you guys don't have a Trader Joe's locally, it's like a Whole Foods or what's more natural. I think Whole Foods, Fresh and Easy, those are pretty national. So just look for organic tomato sauce without extra added sugar. So we're going to take the veggies and I'm going to chop them up nice and fine in the chopper. I love my new chopper that my sister found for me. So I'm super excited to be using that. Once I get the veggies chopped up a little bit, I'm going to saute them first in this coconut oil. Again, we use coconut oil to saute our vegetables, or even if we need to put it down in the pan first. Anything that calls for any kind of greasing, we use the coconut oil. That's what we use. So once we get all the veggies kind of cooked down, I'm not going to cook them to where they're super soggy. I'm going to leave them a little firm because of course they're going to cook in the oven as well. So once the veggies are done, we're going to put the veggies, the tomato sauce, the salt, and in with our 2 pounds of recipe calls for turkey. And of course we're using extra lean ground turkey. This might just be lean ground turkey, but either one is fine. Mix it all together. We're going to put it in a small baking pan and then bake at 325 for an hour. So again, if you're watching this video, I already know it's super yummy, but I'll take a second after we're done and eating and show you the finished product. All right? Thanks, guys. It's Rebecca again. True story, the meatloaf did not turn out the way I had expected it to and wanted it to, but I wanted to shoot the video anyway because this is what happened. One, I misread the directions. Like I said, I will always keep it real. So I set the oven at 325. It should have been at 375. So here we are an hour later. It should be done, and it was still pretty mushy on the inside. And I gave it a few more minutes, but we were super hungry, so this was my fix. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because I really want to encourage. So often I hear people that come to me, our clients and what have you, and they say, that they don't cook, they're intimidated by cooking or what have you. It's not about being perfect, it's just about figuring it out as you go. So here I am, an hour later, I'm hungry, my son's hungry, it's still not ready. I took a third of the meatloaf, I took it out of the oven, took a third of it out, and turned it into a scramble. So it doesn't look as pretty as it would in meatloaf form, but let me tell you, it's now cooked all the way through. It does taste super yummy, the taste is really good. And the other thing I did while that was cooking was I made some cauliflower mashed potatoes, which were super simple. You literally just take a pot of water, clean a head of cauliflower. I used a smaller head of cauliflower, cleaned the entire thing, cut it up into smaller pieces, threw it in the water, boiled it, and then just kind of stuck it every once in a while with a fork to see how easily the fork goes through the cauliflower. Usually when it raises and kind of starts floating, it's ready. So I just checked the tenderness with the fork. Then I drained the cauliflower into a strainer, and then took that cauliflower, put it in a bowl, got 2 tablespoons of butter. Don't be afraid of butter in moderation. It can be a healthy fat as long as you're getting the right kind. And that I don't use, again, going back to not doing dairy, I don't use actual butter. I use Earth Balance, which is awesome. I put about 2 tablespoons of that in it, smushed it up a little bit, and then went back to my handy dandy chopper and then put it in there to finish it off, which I did learn a lesson about my new chopper too. It pretty much purees the vegetables. So at least the way I used it, I've got to figure out how to tweak it and use it better. So that's a great tool to use when you want to hide vegetables, let's say in your meatloaf, or I guarantee you if I hadn't told Dante, he probably would not even realize that that's cauliflower mashed potatoes because I tasted them super yummy. Just a little bit, like I said, just all it is the cauliflower, about 2 tablespoons of butter, which I think next time I'm going to try and make it with the almond milk instead, and some pepper, and it's super good. So again, my goal is to help as many people as possible get healthy and fit, and the key to that, you can come train with us in our programs. We would love to have you. Call me, I'll give you a free trial, all that's good. But regardless of whether you're a client with us or you're just visiting me on YouTube, in order for me to truly help you get healthy and fit, I have to help you learn how to eat right and how to make it easy and fun and less intimidating, because nutrition is 80% of how we look and feel or more. It's such a critical element. So get in there. Don't be afraid to experiment with different recipes. Before I said if you get 10. Well, if you think about it this way, if you just take one day a month, take 2 hours, one day a month to learn a new recipe, experiment with it, cook with it, so that you get comfortable with it and you have fun with it. If you do that every month this year, you'll have 12 healthy recipes in your repertoire. You'll have 12 healthy recipes in your repertoire. And now point is that is what is creating a healthy and fit lifestyle for you and for your family. So get cooking and have fun.